trouble. Let's get back into the news. We left off talking about how Jen Psaki says, hey, who cares if you lost your livelihood because of our corona nonsense? Just have a drink. Well, it seems like for weeks now, we've seen another piece of the corona nonsense that was gospel the last 2 years. Suddenly, the truth that would have got you banned on YouTube 2 years ago has come out, and now you can say it because the so-called authorities say it. So I hope that this is another example, because again, Susan, this isn't me. This is the CDC, our all-knowing overlords at the CDC. They've said it, so I can't get in trouble for saying it. But this week's entry in yesterday's unspeakables becoming today's truths is that in the CDC's weekly report, data from California and New York show that between May and November, so this was the Delta variant era of 2021, people with prior infection, as in you got corona, you recovered from corona, you have corona antibodies, those people, unvaccinated, just natural exposure and recovery, those people had lower rates of COVID-19 than those who were vaccinated alone. In fact, 6 times lower rates. We're not even talking marginally, multiples lower. Another way to put that.
I told you people that when I deliberately infected a whole bunch of people with coronavirus, I was saving lives. And look, I was. American hero. Well,
and it's not just New York and California. The similar rates have apparently been found across countries in that time frame too.
Is she talking specifically about Omicron or any kind of natural immunity from previous infection?
This CDC, the data included in this CDC weekly report is specifically during the Delta era, pre-Omicron.
Okay, great.
So similar, let me find my spot. So despite the fact that people with this natural immunity did better than vaccinated people without that prior infection, in the Delta era, at least, most of what is emphasized in the publications on this story and on this report from the CDC is the limitations. And the limitations are, well, we don't know that this is true for Omicron. It might have reversed magically from Delta to Omicron. Now, to their credit, they claim this was not true with the original virus variant. The original virus, I suppose. They say that the vaccine immunity was more effective for the original virus for which it was designed. And then when Delta came around, natural immunity became more effective. They don't know what it is or is not for Omicron. They also say we didn't factor in the boosters. So you take 5 more boosters and maybe you reverse this trend. And of course, the CDC and a lot of the publications are going to tell you that the vaccines are the safest protection because the infection necessary to get natural immunity is more risky than the risks of the vaccine in their assessment. But let's say that all of these premises
How could they possibly know that?
Well, how could they possibly know a lot of things that they claim to know? Just if they claim to know something today that you find suspect, just check back tomorrow and they will claim that the exact opposite is true and they know it now. But let's say that all those premises are true. Let's say that they are correct in their risk assessment. And let's say that the original, the vaccine was the most effective source of immunity from the original virus. Even if all of those things are true, gotta tell me on what basis now is natural immunity not a consideration for your ridiculous mandates?
Right.
And I say the correct answer is no mandates. But if you're going to do this, look at the science and the data, and you can see that natural immunity is 6 times more effective at preventing future infection. And you're going to tell the guy who got over corona just fine and who now has protection from the virus at rates exceeding 6 times his uninfected, unvaccinated neighbor that he can't go to the movie theater or can't go to the restaurant, even though he's more protected according to the data. And how on this topic of that natural immunity is more dangerous because you have to have infection to build it. How do we know that? I mean, that is a counterfactual. And to the point that you brought up earlier, somewhat in jest, but there is a serious point there. You're right that how do we know that a quicker establishment of natural immunity wouldn't have provided the virus with less pathways of transmission, less opportunities for mutation, and perhaps it might be over by now. We don't know what the death count is if natural immunity was the strategy from the start. And I'm not saying, obviously, I don't think natural immunity is a viable strategy in, say, the nursing home. But is it a viable strategy for healthy 20-year-old people at the gym?
Of course it is.
It is.
It is for other diseases. I fail to see why this would be any different. And then this thing of the vaccine covering only one strain. They were talking from day one about subsequent mutations, how it was a virtual inevitability. So I don't see what the problem is. Also, another thing that they're not talking about, they're going to mandate that all these people with natural immunity have to get the vaccine. All the data show that the risks conferred to people with natural immunity from the vaccine are considerably higher, that they experience more side effects. The long-term effects are probably worse. How are they going to square that circle?
Yeah, I don't know. And my problem,
they're not even addressing that, are they?
With all of these arguments, they just get to invent counterfactuals. It seems like every time, say, a vaccinated person out there gets a quote-unquote breakthrough case, they don't even use that term anymore because they've acknowledged that transmission is not prevented.
Yeah.
So the breakthrough case, they don't even say anymore. A person gets it and says, well, I'm vaccinated. Yeah, I'm testing positive. Yeah, I tested positive. Yeah, I even have symptoms, but I for sure would have died if I hadn't taken this.
Right.
But how do you know?
How do you know that?
How do you know? And every time that the argument falls apart, some ridiculous counterfactual is invented where, well, if it wasn't this, it'd be way worse. How do we know it would be way worse? It's never explained. We just have to.
You clearly don't. You also don't know that you didn't get much sicker because you got vaccinated in the same way. So, so I don't know why they would just fall in that conclusion.
Yeah. Yeah. So, once again, they've told us about the masks. In certain contexts, they've told us about the lockdowns. They've now told us about natural immunity, and all of the unspeakable lies of yesteryear become general truths of today, one by one by one, and we'll just keep chronicling it. And we're all supposed to believe that everyone who said this 5 seconds ago was a crazy person, but now the CDC says it's fine.